Natalie attired, as always, looking good. Good seeing you, Bob.
Hey, it's good
big day
here.
for the not just the game, but a big day, as Frank and I were talking earlier.
Yeah,
it's a big day for our country.
Yeah, it really is. And, of course, the day was made even more special for us because we got an opportunity to honor this man in a well-deserving handing out of the Jackie Robinson Lifetime Achievement Award. And so it made this day that much more special.
Ichiro Suzuki leads off against Luke Hochevar, and Suzuki scored the Seattle run back in the first inning. Ron Swan, Bob, who is our high home camera up here in the booth, and he has his Monarchs cap on tonight. He asked our video fan question of the night, which was a good one, and I think if you look at it from a sports point of view, it's very thought-provoking. And his question was, in the end, what Jackie Robinson did, does that make him more of a sports icon or more of a social icon?
And really, I think more of a social icon because he changed our society for the better. You know, that was one of the things that the late Buck O'Neil talked so passionately and so eloquently about, was that Robinson's breaking of the color barrier wasn't just a part of the civil rights movement. It actually spawned the beginning of what we know to be the modern day civil rights movement, and it literally changed the course of our society for the better. And so when you look at that, the fact that he was obviously a great baseball player, but his impact is just absolutely incredible. To me, and Buck would always say this, you can mark the 20th century before Jackie and after Jackie. He had that kind of far-reaching impact in terms of sparking social change in our country.
And I remember reading this so many times and hearing about it on documentaries as I've tried to study more about it and go deeper than just the game of baseball. But the fact that Branch Rickey, who was the president and general manager of the Dodgers, in his famous line that he wasn't looking for the best player from the Negro Leagues, he was looking for the right player from the Negro Leagues.
Yeah, and I think that was true because there were a lot of other guys who were great baseball players, but Jackie was the right guy. He had the intangibles. You know, college educated. He had been a celebrated collegian at UCLA, so he's college educated. He had served in the military. He was disciplined. He was married. He was stable. All those attributes would be called upon to deal with the racial hatred that he would be confronted with. And so you had to have the right guy. And, of course, this was so out of character for Jackie to take this kind of stuff. But Jackie understood that this was bigger than Jackie. And I think sometimes in this life, there are people who are put in places for particular reasons. And I think Jackie understood how big this really was and that he needed to do this to make our society better and to create some opportunities for others.
Nice play by Mitch Meyer into left center field to get Sean Figgins.
Well, Bob, at what point do you think Jackie went from the sport of baseball and knowing that he broke the color barrier and so forth to the social side?
Well, I really think it started, Frank, the day he signed the contract. But I'm not sure even when he signed the contract. Of course, you know, he plays here in 1945, which is one of those little-known things. And we want people to understand that Jackie Robinson's career, professional baseball career, began right here in Kansas City. It was our city that gave America one of his greatest heroes. But, you know, when he signed that contract, I'm not sure he really understood how big this thing was. But certainly by the time he got to Montreal, had that phenomenal year in Montreal. They win the championship there. And then, of course, this groundswell. You know, all of a sudden, all of these folks who had been kind of left behind in our society were there rallying around Jackie. And this groundswell started to build around it. And so I don't know if he knew how big this thing was when he first signed his contract in 45, but by the time he got there, in April 15, 1947, I think he had an understanding. And just hearing some of the guys like Don Newcomb and some of the guys who would later come to the Dodgers and seeing all of these African Americans who were following Jackie everywhere that he went. There was so much pride in this, and I think that meant a lot to a lot of people.
Before we get back to Jackie Robinson, I want to make sure that we spend some time talking about Buck O'Neil, your great friend, and you were just reminding me that had Buck still been with us, he would have turned 100 this year.
This is his centennial birthday year. He would be 100 in November 13th, and so you know we're really excited about that, and we think that there's some opportunities for us as part of a centennial birthday celebration for the late Buck O'Neil, and you know with the Hall of Fame giving out the second installment of the Buck O'Neil Award later this summer at the Hall of Fame ceremonies. I think there's some excitement building around what we want to do, and Buck still remains a big part of what we want to do as we continue to try and get the story out about the Negro Leagues and about his museum. Well, Frank, I tell you what, the outpouring of love from the community has been really overwhelming since the announcement almost 3 weeks ago. But excitement wanes over time. It's important that we continue to try and build on this wave of energy and support that we're getting. If I've helped galvanize some folks, then that is wonderful. But as an institution and with a great team that we're working with, we want to really try to build on that momentum. We're seeing already an increase in memberships since the announcement, which I'm really, really excited about. But key guys like my dear friend Joe Posnanski and Jason Whitlock and other friends who have voices to help carry this message out to people is really, really important, and it's great to have them back in the fold as well. These kinds of opportunities that you guys are presenting us here tonight means the world to us, and we want to encourage people, come on down and see what we have to offer. As any museum would be, we want people to experience what we have to offer.
Something that's always struck me is the pride that comes with the Negro Leagues and these guys that could have been bitter if they wanted to and would have had every right to be bitter. And do you sense sometimes that there's, since it was not the leagues, but that time in our country was such a shameful time in our country that for some people they don't realize that the museum is more about celebration than it is looking back and saying here's what was wrong with our country.
Yeah, Ryan, you're absolutely right. It is a celebration. I do think sometimes people think because it's attached to the ugliness of American segregation that you're going to be hit with this sad, somber story, but you got the wrong place. This is a celebration. It is a celebration of the power of the human spirit to persevere and prevail. What these men did in the face of adversity is the real story. They never cried, woe is mine. They were enjoying their lives. They were playing the game that they loved. They played the game as well as anyone, and they left a lasting legacy that should stand the test of time. That's the story that's documented there at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. And you're right. To a guy, there is no harboring of bitterness because, number one, you can't convince them that they weren't playing the best baseball being played anywhere in the world. It was just that the rest of the world thought that the best baseball players were in the major leagues, and so they wanted to prove to the world that they were as good as anyone. But, within all of that, they never had any ill will toward anyone, and I think that's the thing that Buck carried so beautifully, in that spirit, and seeing the glass as half full, never half empty. And I think all of those guys embody that same spirit.
The story that Buck used to love to tell about Jackie Robinson was when they were filling up the bus with gas.
Yes.
And some of the players tried to go into a segregated bathroom, and the owner said, no, you guys can't go in there. And Jackie said,
take the hose out the tank.
And it was two 50-gallon tanks.
Yes.
That was going to feed his family for a week, right?
Absolutely. It was a wonderful story because it also exemplified how Jackie wasn't so acclimated to segregation and that he understood the economic power that you need in order to change things. And the guy said, go to the restroom, but don't stay too long.
Which should be a goal for everyone, right? Well, we got 2 outs and 2 strikes, Bob, and want to make sure we have enough time to thank you for stopping by the booth and everything you do for the museum. It is such a gem in our city, and we encourage people, if you haven't been there, and we reiterate again, it is a place of great pride and grace and celebration.
Yeah. I'm biased, obviously, but I think we have the best baseball museum anywhere in the country. And that's no disrespect to Cooperstown, which is obviously a wonderful place. But this story, this piece of American history that you cannot get in a textbook. You can't get this history in a textbook. So you need to come and experience this and learn about those who helped make this country the great country that she is. And that story is told only at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. It's more than baseball. Baseball is merely a premise for a much grandiose story. And what we witness here is the evolution of how America became the great country that she is. And it's just told through the eyes of these legendary baseball players. And, of course, if you're a baseball fan, then you're going to be in hog heaven.
Then there's the baseball stuff, too. That's right.